still make objections as to hearsay and things, but I'm saying generally, you don't think he should testify as part of your motion to exclude, right?
That's correct.
All right, so that objection will also be overruled, but I want to make sure that the record reflects that you did raise. Thanks for giving me a heads up about that. Yeah, there's nobody today testifying that is excluded, that they want not on live stream. You know, I've never gone into that box and signed this thing. I've been so busy. I'll try doing it this evening. Right. I see that. I'll give a shout out to the my interns back there. Hello, young ladies. How y'all doing? Fine. If you have any questions afterwards, feel free to come back, okay? All right, we're ready. Please rise for the jury. All right, thank you. You may be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. I'm kind of proud of my time management here. I get you back pretty quick, so I'm quick to point out when I'm bad, but I take a little credit as well. So we're going to continue with the state's case. The state has another witness to call. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, and you may do so.
Thank you, Judge. State calls for Dyson.
Hello, sir. Welcome. How are you? You come on up. That's good right there. And just raise your right hand. So, you do solemnly swear that the information you are about to provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, self you got. All right, thank you. Go ahead and have a seat here at the witness chair. Make yourself comfortable. When you get settled in, if you could spell your name for the reporter, please. Thank you.
Jerome Dyson, Jerome Dyson.
All right, thank you, sir. You may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Dyson, will you introduce yourself to the jury and tell them about your prior occupation?
My name is Jerome Dyson. I'm currently working as a gun violence de-escalator with the Air Brigade.
Sir, would you mind either scoot up a
Scoot up.
little or move it closer? I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you, sir.
Can you state that again? I had a hard time hearing you too.
My name is Jerome Dyson. I'm currently working as a gun violence de-escalator with the Air Brigade.
Thank you, sir. And were you previously employed as a police officer with St. Louis City?
Yes.
And how long were you employed with St. Louis City, sir?
About 34 and a half years.
34 and a half years.
Yes.
And so were you employed as such back in 2003?
Yes, I was.
All right. And did you have occasion to get involved in the investigation into a stolen automobile with a child, Christian Ferguson, reported to be inside?
Yes.
Who were you partnered with at the time, or were you partnered with somebody?
Yes, I was Harry Howell.
Okay. And what was the first thing why were you partnered with Harry Howell? Let's start there.
Actually, he was not an assigned partner. He was actually a new detective. And my job was to assist in helping training.
Okay.
So we were together, but not technically partners.
Okay. And did you all together respond to, at some point, the home of the Fergusons?
Yes.
And was that on June 11th of 2003?
Yes, it was.
Okay. And why did you respond to that house?
Well, we were sent it at home by the lieutenant because there was a report of a kidnapping that occurred in the city of St. Louis, and the car and the victims had resided in that home.
Okay. And would you consider this a cursory interview with the family?
Yes.
And when you responded to the house, who was present?
There was Monica, who was the wife of the victim. There was two daughters, Deshonda, Tia, and there was a son, Connor, and a sister, Lisa.
Okay. And did you speak with all these people at the home that day?
Yes, we did.
All right. Did Monica, the wife, give you permission to search the house or to look at the house?
We eventually did a consensus search, and we did look at the house, yes.
And when you looked at the house, did you know anything more about the case other than that it was just a stolen vehicle?
No,
You didn't know what to look for, if anything?
that's correct.
All right. Did you happen to look at Christian's room?
Yes, I did.
And did he share that room with anybody?
With his brother, Connor.
Okay. And when you looked at Connor and Christian's room, what, if anything, did you notice about that room?
The room was pretty neat. Kristen's bed was made up, but there was a strong odor of urine.
Okay. And you said Christian's bed was made?
It seems to be made, yes.
Did you notice anything, any bedspreads or anything with vomit on them?
Objection, relevance.
Overruled. You may answer the question.
I don't recall anything with vomit.
Okay. Now, after that first meeting with the family, did you eventually learn that the defendant's SUV had been located on a street by the name of Ron Barr?
Yes.
And when you found that information out, what did you do next?
We began, are you referring to the interview?
Let me go back to this. Did you then, after learning that the SUV was found on Ron Barr, did you have occasion to go back and speak with Monica again
Yes.
as a result of that information?
Yes.
And why did you go back and speak with Monica after learning that the SUV was found on Ron Barr?
Well, this case was new, and it had some things going on that we were not quite believing.
Objection, Judge.
State your objection.
Speculative and improper opinion.
All right, I'll sustain the objection here. Why don't you just re-ask your question, please?
Sure, Judge. Mr. Reynolds, at some point did you, after learning that the SUV had been found on Ron Barr, did you have occasion to go back and speak with Monica about the location of the vehicle on Ron Barr?
Yes.
And during that conversation with you, did she give you the name of a friend of theirs.
Yes.
And who was that friend?
Lakeisha Mays.
And what did she say about where, what, if anything, did she say about where Lakeisha Mays lived in relation to Ron Barr?
Objection, hearsay.
Goes to the continuing course of conduct of police officers, Your Honor.
Why don't you all approach, please? One second. Are you ready? All right, so sustain the objection. You were going to, overrule the objection, and you're just going to restate your question.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Did you get information from Monica that led you to send officers to speak with a woman named Lakeisha Mays who lived on Disco?
It's kind of confusing the way you asked, but I'm going to answer it this way. Based on the location of
Honor, I'm going to object. That's
Hold on a second.
non-responsive.
Yeah, restate your question again,
Okay.
please.
You went back and spoke with Monica, correct?
Yes, correct.
And you spoke with her after you learned that the red SUV reported as stolen was found on Ron Barr. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And after speaking with Monica, did you learn of a friend who lived near there?
Yes.
And at that point, did you direct officers to that location of the friend?
Officers were directed. I didn't.
Okay.
But yes, they were directed to that friend.
Did you give those officers the name Lakeisha Mays and her address on Disco?
I don't think I gave that name, but that name was given. Lakeisha Mays was given to the office, yes.
And you learned that information from Monica?
Yes.
And nothing further, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Cross-examination?
Yes.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
So you and Harry Howell went to the Ferguson home that morning, June 11th, 2003,
Yes.
and you spoke with everyone there,
Yes.
and you found the home to be in order. In fact, I think you testified it was fairly neat.
Yes.
And you searched, looked around. Did you see prescription medications and nutrition supplements?
On the original visit, I don't think the medication was of any value to us to look for.
But did you remember observing them?
Yes.
And you didn't seize any evidence that day?
No.
And you didn't make any arrests?
No.
And did you later do some additional searching on other days to try and locate Christian?
Yes.
Did that searching include visiting properties, various properties connected with a company named Pyramid Construction?
Yes.
And you didn't find anything of value in those searches, did you?
That's correct.
Nothing further.
Thank you. Redirect.
Nothing, Your Honor.
All right, detective may step down and be released.
Yes, Judge.
All right, thank you, sir. Have a good day. Be safe.
State calls Officer Don Reynolds, Your Honor.
Thank you. Oh, yeah, that's hello, sir. How are you?
Good morning.
If you could just raise your right hand. You do solemnly swear that the information you're about to provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Thank you. Go ahead and take a seat here. Make yourself comfortable. Once you get settled in there, please spell your name for the reporter. I would appreciate that, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. My name is Donald Reynolds, R-E-Y-N-O-L-D-S.
And how are you currently employed, Mr. Reynolds?
Currently, I'm employed as a maintenance technician at a high school.
Okay. And how were you employed in 2003, sir?
I was employed at that point by the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department, assigned to homicide section.
And how long were you with St. Louis City Police Department?
I was with the city for about a little over 20 years.
Okay. Do you recall back in June of 2003, were you called in to assist with the investigation into a missing child, Christian Ferguson?
Yes, I was.
Okay. And what was the, at some point, did you respond and meet with a woman by the name of Lakeisha Mays?
Yes, I did.
And after meeting with Lakeisha Mays, did you learn about her vehicle being missing?
Yes.
Okay. And what was her vehicle?
It was a tan Chevy Malibu.
Okay. Did you respond to the area of Page and Skinker at some point during your investigation?
I did.
And why did you respond to the area of Page and Skinker?
That was the location that a phone call was received originally reporting the incident.
And when you say the phone call, do you mean the 911 phone call?
Yes.
Was made at Page and Skinker?
Right, there's a payphone there.
And when you canvassed that area, did you locate a vehicle?
Yes.
Specifically Lakeisha Mays' vehicle?
Yes.
And where did you find that vehicle?
It was parked on Hodemont, on the east side of the street on Hodemont, just south of Page Avenue.
Okay. If I may approach the witness, Your Honor.
You may.
to show you some marked states exhibits 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21.
Right.
You can look at those instead.
Yes, ma'am.
And do those accurately depict Lakeisha May's car as you saw it that day?
Yes, ma'am.
And that was June 11th of 2003.
Yes.
Your Honor, we took this state's exhibits 17 through 21 evidence.
All right, any objection?
None, Your Honor.
Seeing no objection, States Exhibits 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21 shall be admitted in evidence, and you may publish if you would like to do so.
Thank you, Judge. I'll show you some marked state's exhibit 17. So can you tell me what's depicted in state's exhibit 17, please?
Yes, that's that tan Chevy Malibu that we located there just on Woodamont.
And what is, it is on Hodemont. And what is that side street you can see right there?
Well, in front of you is Page Avenue at the traffic light.
Right here is Page.
Yes. Yes. Oh, okay. I don't know how I'll do with this.
Feel free to stand up if you'd like.
All right. What am I doing here? Okay. So where those cars are up there, I'm sorry, where those cars are up there, that's Page Avenue.
Okay.
We're facing northbound right now.
All right, thank you. I'm going to show you what's been marked as state's exhibit 18.
And that's pretty much the same thing. We're facing north, just backed up a little bit from the car, showing more of the general area behind it, or in front of it, I should say.
Now, looking at this photo, do you remember where the payphone was located?
Yes, payphone that was, is on, there's a building right here where you can see there's 3 white signs. That's the side of a building. On the front of that building facing Page Avenue, right there at the little corner of the building is where the payphone is, or was.
I believe it's just another picture of the car.
And what number is that?
This is, I'm sorry, Your Honor, this is 19.
Okay.
Okay, and again, this is the car. Now you're looking kind of, we'll say a southwest direction at the car there.
This is 20.
Once again, the focus of this is the car, and you're looking you're looking northwest, I guess. You can see those 3 signs I was talking about on the side of that building a little better in this one.
And the payphone is located in front of that brick building.
Yes.
This is State's Exhibit 21. Just another.
And again, here the focus is on that vehicle where it's parked. That little tan building with the strange-looking roof, that faces Page Avenue. So you're looking at the side of that that's on Hodemont there.
Thank you. And after finding this vehicle, what did you do next? Did you tow it?
Well, we had an evidence technician unit come out, and they photographed it, and then we had it towed to the police department's garage, called Fleet Services Garage.
Did you see anything in the vehicle just from looking at it from the outside?
We weren't going to really mess with it too much. We looked at it from the outside. There was some trash bags lining the back seat, and nothing. That was kind of the only thing that was of notice.
Your Honor, I moved to admit if I haven't already done these in evidence. 17,
Yes.
21. Thank you.
Yeah, Exhibits 17 through 21 were admitted in evidence.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
I have nothing further, Your
All
Honor.
right. Cross-examination?
Just one question.
No, go ahead.
And inside the trash bags in the back seat, what did you find? Ultimately,
Ultimately, I believe it was clothing. I wasn't present when those bags were open, though.
nothing further.
All right, thank you. Anything else?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, sir. You may step down.
Thank you, Judge.
Good afternoon. Be safe.
Yes, Your Honor. State calls Matthew Canwinkle.
afternoon, sir. Welcome. If you would just stay right about there, just raise your right hand, I'll swear in. You do solemnly swear that the information you are about to provide will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God. Thank you. Go ahead and have a seat. In the witness chair, make yourself comfortable. Once you get settled in there, can you spell your name for the reporter, please? Thank you.
My first name's Matthias, M-A-T-T-H-I-A-S. Last name Hanover, H-A-N-E-W-I-N-K-E-L.
Thank you. All right, you may proceed.
Thank you. Mr. Haneweekle, how are you currently employed, sir?
I'm a contractor with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives.
And how were you employed back in June of 2003?
I was a member of the St. Louis Police Department. I was assigned to the Homicide Division.
How long were you in St. Louis City, sir?
26 years.
Okay. And back in June, of 2003, you said you were assigned to the Homicide Division?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you at some point called in to assist with the alleged disappearance, with the alleged car theft and disappearance of Christian Ferguson?
Yes.
Okay. And did you have occasion to respond and to meet with a woman by the name of Lakeisha Mays?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And in fact, did you bring Lakeisha Mays where did you bring her? Let me ask you that question.
We conveyed her, myself and my partners, brought Ms. Mays down to police headquarters at 1200 Clark Street.
Okay. And at some point, she reported her vehicle missing?
Objection leading.
Sustained.
Did she at some point report that her vehicle was missing?
Judge, it's leading.
I'm going to sustain it again. Maybe restate your question.
Did you at some point locate a vehicle belonging to Ms. Mays?
Yes.
Had she reported it stolen?
No.
Okay. When you found the vehicle, did she know that it was missing?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to show you it's been marked as State's Exhibits. And what was her vehicle?
It was a 1998 Chevrolet Malibu.
Okay. If I may approach, Your Honor.
You may.
Thank you. Is this at the... yeah.
So these are State's Exhibits 22 through 25. And what are those pictures of?
This is these are photographs of Lakeisha Mays' 1998 Chevrolet Malibu.
And is that the way it appeared back in 2003?
Yes.
Okay. And where were those pictures taken?
This was at the 3930 Laclede, the Police Department Fleet Services Division. It's our garage.
Okay. And do those truly and accurately depict the vehicle back at that time?
Yes.
Your Honor, I move to admit State's Exhibits 22 through 25 into evidence and to publish them to the jury.
All righty. Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Seeing no objection, State's Exhibits 22, 23, 24, 25 shall all be admitted in evidence, and you may publish.
Thank you, Your Honor. This is State's Exhibit 20, trying to get order, 22. And this was taken where?
3930 Laclede, excuse me, the Police Department Fleet Services.
Okay, and why was your car taken there?
It was located. The laboratory division was requested to process it.
Now let me ask you this, was Lakeisha Mays ever at any point with you at this location?
Yes.
Those are marked State's Exhibit 23.
Did you say that's number 23?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
And what is this picture of?
That's another angle of Miss Lakeisha Mays' car.
Did she, when you were going through her car, she was present at some point, correct?
Yes.
Did she identify anything in the car as being not hers?
Yes.
And what did you understand to not be hers?
There was a black-handled folding pocket knife. Was in the console area. and there was a black four-cell police-type flashlight located over in the driver door pocket, like where maps would be kept.
And was there anything else found in the car, specifically in the back seat? I believe in one of these photos. The State Exhibit 22. Did she say anything else that was in the vehicle?
Yes, those were some white trash bags with clothes in them. She indicated those belonged to her. She said that the last time she saw...
Objection, hearsay.
I'm sorry?
I said hearsay, objection, hearsay.
Yeah, I'll sustain the objection. So why don't you ask the question again?
Yeah. So are these, I'm sorry, let me start over again. Did Ms. Mays identify these clothes as belonging to her?
Yes,
And there was more than one trash bag full of her clothing in the car, is that correct?
yes.
Show you the marked States Exhibit 24. And what is in this picture?
In front of the armrest is the black folding knife that I was speaking about earlier.
This is State Exhibit 25.
That's another angle of the pocket knife that I was just speaking about.
I'm going to show you what the marked, if I may approach your honor again.
You may.
This is 27. All right, I'm going to show you what the marked State Exhibit 26 and 27. Now, will you tell me about that envelope that you're opening right now?
This one?
Yes.
This is a evidence bag. It's in my handwriting. I prepared it. It contains the flashlight that I found in the passenger side driver door pocket.
Okay. And is that the way it looked back? Who seized it?
Yes.
That was Exhibit 26.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Seeing no objection, State's Exhibit 26 shall be admitted in evidence.
And you said this was found in the driver's side pocket?
Yeah, about the door pocket.
And then what's about State's Exhibit? And there are actually batteries in here too. Weird.
They were inside the flashlight when I recovered it.
And what about State's Exhibit 27?
This is an evidence envelope that I prepared, has my name and DSN on it. This is the black-handled pocket knife that I was referring to earlier that was in the center console of the car.
And is that the way you packaged it back in June of 2003?
Yes,
And is that the way it appeared at the time when you seized it and packaged it?
yes.
I would move to admit State's Exhibit 27 into evidence, Your Honor.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Seeing no objection, State's Exhibit 27 shall be admitted in evidence.
And may I have a situation?
You may.
I have nothing further, Your Honor.
Thank you. Cross-examination.
No, Judge.
All right, thank you. A witness may be released.
Yes, Judge.
All right, you may step down. Thank you, sir. Be careful. Have a good day.
Your Honor, may we briefly approach?
You may.
Thank you.
right, you may, Ms. Schlesinger or Ms. Bailey Smith, you may call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, the state calls Joe Laney to the stand.
All right, hello. Hello, sir, welcome. Good afternoon. You just come right up to here, that's good, right there, and raise your right hand if you're sworn in. You do solemnly swear that the information you are about will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God. Thank you. Go ahead and have a seat, make yourself comfortable. Settle in. If you would spell your name for the reporter, I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure, it's Joseph, J-O-S-E-H-P, or E-P-H, Lamie, L-A-M-I-E.
Good afternoon, sir.
Hi.
How are you employed?
I work at Fox 2.
All right. And did you work for Fox 2 back on June 11th of 2003?
I did.
Did you retrieve footage of the morning news broadcast covering the disappearance of Christian Ferguson?
I did.
And did you hand that news footage off to St. Louis City Police?
At their request, yes.
Have you had an opportunity to review the news footage from that morning broadcast?
I've seen it, yes.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
You may.
Thank you. Showing the witness what has been marked as State's Exhibit 28, 29, 30, and 31. Mr. Lamey, can you please tell the jury what we are looking at here in these exhibits?
On the morning of the incident, reporter Sean Conroy in this photo was sent from an assignment to the scene where police had dispatched units. He subsequently, it looks like the timestamp's about 7:40 something, went live with a
Ms.
live
Schlesinger,
report.
Is the witness referring to which exhibit number?
28, Your Honor.
28, all right, thank you.
He's now looking at State's 29.
The timestamp on it says 7:48, and that is our logo from the broadcasts that year.
Is it safe to say these are screen grabs of that morning footage?
These are video screen grabs, yes.
And what do you see in State's Exhibit 30 in your hand?
A payphone,
And is that payphone from the morning news broadcast at the intersection of Page and Skinker on the morning of June 11th, 2003?
it's the payphone referenced by reporter Sean Conroy in his live report, and he specifically referenced that payphone.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. And do you mind taking a look at State's Exhibit 31?
In the live report, as Sean reported on the incident, the camera panned to the left as he was talking about where the car had disappeared to or where the suspect had left towards. The camera swung in that direction. So this is a still shot from...
So safe to say the camera moved east, looking into the city, and captured a clip of the street Hodemont?
Correct.
Okay. And then there's a darker tint to the photo and a circle highlighting a vehicle on that street. Is this just a highlight from the early morning broadcast again?
Yes. No, this is, the highlight would be from a subsequent report.
Yes, but
Yeah.
this was the morning.
This was video from that morning, yes.
Perfect, thank you. And that video that these are screenshots from, is that video maintained in the ordinary course of business by KTVI or Fox 2?
Correct.
And all of these screenshots are fair and accurate depictions of that morning broadcast.
They are.
Your Honor, at this time, I move for the admission of State's Exhibit 28, 29, 30, and 31.
No objection.
All right, thank you. So State's Exhibits 28, 29, 30, and 31 shall be admitted in evidence. Do you wish to publish?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Lamey, can you tell the jury, now that they can see the photo as well, what they're looking at?
It's a frame grab video that was the broadcast that morning as reporter Sean Conroy reported live from the incident that we had diverted him to, which was a reported, I think, abduction.
And I am now publishing State's Exhibit 29. Is that a close-up of the Fox 2 Live logo in the bottom right corner?
That's correct. time temperature bug or logo, yes.
Was there anything particular about the way that the time was displayed on the news in 2003, which speaks to the accuracy of that time?
Only that broadcasting then was analog, so that's a clock that is displayed real time by our engineering from a clock that keeps track of programming and everything else, so it's on real time. That the difference is these days with digital conversion, a lot of times if you have a DVR and you pause it, the time, and you restart it, the time may not be right when you're looking at it real time. But that's a accurate depiction of the time of that broadcast, yes.
So the broadcast was at 7:48 a.m.?
Correct.
I'm now showing State's Exhibit 30. Is this the payphone in question?
It's the phone referenced in the video that Sean Conroy reported live in, yes.
And then we spoke earlier about how the camera in the video pans eastbound into St. Louis City, correct?
Correct.
I'm now showing State's Exhibit 31. And we mentioned earlier this little highlighted portion. Do you see that on the photo there?
Yes.
And so that is an image from the 7:48 a.m. broadcast, correct?
Correct.
And pictured there is that tan Chevy Malibu, correct?
Correct.
No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Cross-examination.
Just a brief question. John, let me see. I just wanted to clarify something said on direct. So, State's Exhibit 31, that shows the highlighted portion of the vehicle. Did you say that this was done on a later broadcast?
The highlighted portion was done in a subsequent broadcast, but his question, I thought, was, is that the video from the morning? And that is correct. It is the video from that morning.
Okay, so the clip from that morning was then used later to highlight this car?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and the broadcast that was done later that highlighted this car, do you know if it went into discussions about who the car belonged to or anything like that?
I wasn't a part of the editorial process
Okay.
On that particular story. I just know from our archives that that's what that was.
Okay, nothing further.
Thank you. Ms. Schlesinger, anything further?
No, Your Honor.
Witness may be released.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you, sir. You may step down. Have a good afternoon. Be safe. All right, counsel, you may call your next witness.
Yes, Your Honor. The State calls Lakeisha Mays.
All right, thank you. Could you move that chair again, I think? Hello, ma'am.
Hello,
How you doing?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
You could just stay there for 1 second. You raise your right hand for me. I swear that you do solemnly swear that the information you're about to provide will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Go ahead and we'll put you here in the witness stand.
Am I close enough?
Would you spell your name for the reporter, please, your first and last name?
It's Lakisha, Mays, M-A-Y-E-S.
Thank you. Ma'am, just make sure you speak up when you do answer, okay?
Okay.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Schlesinger, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Can you please introduce yourself to the jury?
Yes, my name is Lakeisha Mays.
Ms. Mays, I want to ask you a couple questions about something that you've recently had happen to you. Were you recently hospitalized?
Yes, I was.
And as a result of that hospitalization, do you suffer from short-term memory loss?
Yes, I do.
And, however, do you still have your long-term memory?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I'm going to be asking you about things that may have happened about 19 to 20 years ago.
Right.
So I understand it might be difficult, but just, do the best you can.
Okay.
At some point, did you live on a street called Disco Drive or Disco Avenue in Ferguson, Missouri?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And how long did you live at that house?
I believe I lived at that house at least 15 years.
Did you live or have that residence back in 2003?
Yes, I did.
Do you know somebody by the name of Dawan Ferguson?
Yes, I do.
And do you know somebody by the name Monica Ferguson?
Yes, I do.
At some point in 2003, did you reside with Dawan and Monica Ferguson?
Yes, I did.
And would that be at their residence on Sylvan Place?
Yes.
And was that in the Pine Law area of St. Louis County?
Yes, it was.
Do you remember what months you lived with them on Sylvan Place?
I'm sorry I don't remember the exact months, but I know that it was just for 2 or 3 months, but I don't remember the exact months.
When you lived, what would you say, was it during the springtime?
I would say maybe spring or summer. It was warm.
Okay.
I do remember that.
Where did you stay in the house?
In the basement.
Did you have occasion to go to the upstairs of that house often?
I would not say often. I was able to enter and leave from the basement. So
Is that how you would typically come and go from the residence?
yes,
When you lived in the house, who lived upstairs and who lived downstairs?
Dawan and Monica lived downstairs, and their children lived upstairs.
When you were living at their house on Sylvan Place, did you still have the residence on Disco?
Yes, I did.
And did Dawan Ferguson ever make any offers to you in regard to helping out with payments for that Disco house?
Objection relevant.
What is your response?
Your Honor, at some points during this trial, the defendant's financial means have come in question. This goes to rebut that.
All right, thank you. Objection will be overruled. You may want to ask the question again.
Thank you. Did Dawan Ferguson offer to pay for your house and utilities on the Disco residence?
Yes.
In early June of 2003, did you move out of the Sylvan Place and go back to your residence on Disco Drive?
Yes.
Did you leave any items of yours at the Ferguson household?
I believe I left some clothing.
Okay. Did you have a vehicle at that time in
Yes, I
June?
did.
Okay. What kind of vehicle did you have?
It was a Chevy Malibu.
Ms. Mays, I want to direct your attention to the morning of June 11th of 2003. Do you remember that day?
I can't say just off hearing the date, not necessarily, but
How about I rephrase it this way? Do you remember the day that Christian Ferguson was reported missing by his father?
yes, I do.
Okay. And was that around June 11th, 2003, to the best of your memory?
To the best of my memory, yes, I believe it was.
At some point on that morning, did law enforcement officials come to your residence?
Yes.
And do you know why they were there to speak with you?
Yes, they were there to speak to me regarding Dawan and his son, Christian.
At any point during your conversation with law enforcement, did the question about your vehicle come up? Or
Yes.
did you notice anything about your vehicle?
Yes, I believe that I noticed that it was not in my driveway.
And did you notice this when law enforcement arrived or some other time?
No, I believe it was when law enforcement arrived.
Did anyone other than you have access to that vehicle?
Yes,
Who-
Dawan had a pair of keys.
Did anyone else?
Yes, I believe my friend Tanae, and I think my mom.
At some point, would these individuals sometimes borrow or use your car,
No.
but they had keys and access to it?
Yes.
Were you surprised to learn that it was missing?
Yes.
At some point, did you call Dawan Ferguson and ask him about the car?
Yes.
What, if anything, did he say to you?
He said that he needed to use it because he was carjacked and he was trying to locate his car and his son.
Did he ever talk to you about you speaking with police?
I believe so.
What did he say?
He told me that I didn't have to talk to them.
At any point when you talked to Dawan about your car, him taking your car, did he say anything that upset you?
Yes.
What did he say?
Well, I asked him how did he get to my car when he didn't have his vehicle, and he said he didn't really think he wanted to involve anybody else.
He didn't want to involve anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
That is what he said to you.
Yes.
And that made you angry?
Yes.
Did you accompany police to go and see your car?
Yes.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
You may.
Showing the witness what has previously been admitted into evidence as State's Exhibits 22, 23, 24, and 25. Showing State's Exhibit 22. Ms. Mays, is this your car?
Yes.
And do you see these trash bags that are in the back seat of that car?
Yes.
Do you know what was contained in those trash bags?
Clothing, my clothing.
And I'm showing State's Exhibit 23. Is this another image of your car?
Yes.
Permission to republish, Your Honor?
You may do so.
I am publishing for the jury State's Exhibit 22. Can you see that okay, Ms. Mays?
Yes.
All right. And earlier, just a moment ago, I asked you about these trash bags right there.
Yes.
And you indicated those contain what?
My clothing.
And are those the clothing that you mentioned earlier that you had left at the Ferguson household?
Yes.
Okay. And you had never gone and collected those yourself, correct?
No, I did not.
So when you went to bed that night, or when you last were in your car, before it was taken by the defendant, were those bags of clothing in there?
No, they were not.
Okay. But they were in there by the time you got to see your car with the police?
Yes.
Was there anything else that the police found in your car that you do not remember being in there?
I believe there was a flashlight, and I believe there was a folding knife.
Okay. Miss Mays, do you know where Ron Bar Lane is?
No.
Do you know where the defendant's car was recovered, the expedition he had?
I don't recall.
No further questions.
All right, thank you. Cross-examination?
Thank you, Judge. Hello again.
Hello.
So, Ms. Mays, you had a Chevy Malibu that I think was either bronze or golden color
Yes.
in 2003? Okay.
Mhm.
And when you had went to bed the next morning is when you noticed it missing. Is that
Yes.
correct? And I believe you testified on direct that was when you had contact with law enforcement,
Correct.
when you noticed the vehicle was missing?
Yes.
Okay. And I believe you had also testified on direct that you had spoken with Dawan, and he had told you he had been carjacked.
Yes.
Okay. And you also testified that Dawan, your mother, and a friend named Tanae
Yes.
had keys to your vehicle.
Yes.
Okay. And so right after Christian went you did have a conversation with Dawan about your car.
Yes.
And I believe, as you just stated on direct, he said that he used your vehicle, but didn't really want to get other people involved.
Yes.
Right, okay. And he didn't tell you to not talk to the police. He said you don't have to talk to them if you didn't want to.
I believe that's correct.
Okay. And around that time, did you have a friend named Vincent Wooten?
Yes.
Now, you lived on the house on Sylvan, you said maybe 2 to 3 months?
Yes.
Okay. And then you decided to move out.
Yes.
And that was because you were not getting along with Monica.
Correct.
You did not move out because of Christian.
No.
Correct? And before you had moved there, you knew Dawan for many years before that. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And so you knew, excuse me, Dawan and the kids pretty well.
No, I didn't know his kids.
The children yet? Okay.
Right, but him and I were kids together
Okay.
and went to the same church. That's where I knew him.
So when you reconnected, that's when you were able to meet the children?
Correct.
Okay. And while you were at the house, you were able to observe Dawan's interactions with Christian, correct?
Sometimes.
Sometimes, okay. And what you observed was you would be able to see Dawan measure the powder and liquids for Christian?
I can't say that I ever saw all of that per se, but I just know that he took care of him.
Okay. So your testimony today is that you're not sure what all you observed?
Right, as far as measurements and how he made the formula and all of that kind of stuff. No, I did not observe that.
Okay. So back in August of 2003, you remember speaking with Special Agent Liza Ludovico?
Yes.
Okay. And she talked to you about Christian Ferguson and Dawan, things like that, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And in that interview with her, you told her that you seen Dawan carefully measure the powder and liquids.
Okay, that could be
Okay.
possible.
And you also stated you would see him use a scale to make sure the measurements were exact.
Mm-hmm.
Is that yes?
That is quite possible.
Okay. And at one point, he started to show you how to prepare the meds and mix them?
I do not remember that.
Okay. So again, you did an interview with Liza Ludovico in August of 2003. You remember that?
I do.
Okay. And that was closer in time to the events than it is presently today?
Correct.
Okay. Memory way fresher then?
Yes.
Okay. So your testimony here today is that you don't remember telling her that?
No, I do not.
Okay. You also had mentioned you had seen Dawan keep track of food and medication?
Yes.
Okay. And what you observed was Dawan would be feeding Christian?
Yes.
And what you had also observed was that Dawan would give Christian medication?
Yes.
And when you had decided to move out, you told Dawan that you were moving out of the house?
Yes.
Okay. And that decision was respected by Dawan?
Yes.
The night before Christian went missing, you were actually supposed to maybe see Dawan later that night?
I believe so.
Okay. But I believe it had got kind of late, if I'm not mistaken?
I believe so.
Okay. And instead of being able to come see you, he went home instead?
I do believe so.
Okay.
It's hard to remember so far.
Understandable.
Ago.
And It was also that it was late, but also that Christian was sick?
I believe so.
Okay. And you went home instead to give him his medication?
Your Honor, I'm going to object, as to any of this would be a reference of a defendant's statement and therefore inadmissible hearsay.
She answered. I'm done.
Hold on a second. I will sustain the objection. And ladies and gentlemen, you will disregard the question, you will disregard the answer, they'll both be stricken from the record, and you'll disregard the counsel's statement at the end. All right, any redirect?
Before I do, Your Honor, may we approach?
You may.
Thank you.
Are you ready? All right, so any redirect?
Just very briefly, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Ms. Mays, when you were staying in that residence in the basement with the defendant and his wife, how often would you go upstairs, or would you rarely go upstairs?
Rarely.
Did you see the children hardly at all?
Objection, Judge. That's leading.
Not really.
It is not leading, so overrule the objection. You may answer, ma'am.
Yes, I would see them.
Did you see them often or not often at all?
I would say not very often.
No further questions.
Anything recross? All right.
No.
Thank you, ma'am. Witness may be released.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. So thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Be safe. Have a good day.
Thank you, too.
Mr. Schlesinger? checking on a scheduling matter there. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, I think this is a good time to take a short and quick break. Court again reminds you of what you were told at the first recess of the court. Until you retire to consider your verdict, you must not discuss this case among yourselves or with others or permit anyone to discuss in your hearing. Don't form or express any opinion about the case until it's finally given to you to decide. Remember, don't do any research or investigation on your own. Do not communicate with others about the case by any means, and do not read, view, or listen to a newspaper, radio, electronic communication from the internet, or television report of the trial. We'll try to get you back out as quick as possible, okay? Thank you all.
All right.
right, so we're going to bring the jury in shortly. And you may be seated. Or, sorry. I thought I said that, but... Oh, what? Yeah. Okay, all rise for the jury, please. All right, thank you. You may be seated. Ms. Schlesinger, the state has another I'm sorry. Ms. Bailey Smith, the state has a witness to call. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor. Robert Muir.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon, sir. Welcome. Come on up. Just right about there. Raise your right hand. You do solemnly swear that the information you are about to provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Self you got? Thank you. Go ahead and have a seat. Get settled in, and once you do, if you'll just give the spelling of your name to my reporter, I appreciate that, sir. Thank you.
Robert Tom T-H-O-M-U-R-E.
Hello, sir. You can introduce yourself to the jury for me, please.
My name is Robert Tom Muir.
And how are you employed, sir?
I'm a private investigator, and I own a company called Metro One Investigations.
And previous to that, in a prior life, how are you employed?
St. Louis police officer.
And how long were you employed with St. Louis City?
21 years.
Okay. Did you have occasion to get involved in an investigation? Or I'm sorry, let me start over again. Did you have occasion to respond to a residence owned by a Dawan Ferguson located at 3720 Sylvan?
Yes.
Okay. And why did you respond to that house?
I was directed by his attorney, John Rogers, to go there, video it, and take some photographs and seize a few items.
Okay. I'm going to show you what's been marked. I may approach the witness.
You
Your
may.
Honor. Now, will you tell the jury while we're what Metro One does?
We do quite a bit of, we're investigators. We do criminal defense work. We do civil work. A lot of requests from us. For example, for a defense attorney, we may do serve subpoenas, interview people, evaluate police reports. Civilly, we may do the same thing, maybe go as far as reading depositions, vetting expert witnesses. For insurance companies, we may do surveillance. Or we're called upon sometimes to find experts for the attorney. We're glorified way, maybe we're like a go for this, go for that.
Okay. And how long has Metro One been around?
1995.
Okay. Retirement didn't suit you?
Marriage.
I won't ask anything more about that.
I'm going to show you, sir, what's been marked as State's Exhibit 33. Do you recognize that document?
I've seen it, yes.
Okay. And then I'm going to show you, I took the disc out, but I think you looked at it earlier, State's Exhibit 32. It was a video, I believe, taken by Metro One. It's in the computer.
I know we took video.
Okay. And did you look at it? You've seen that?
I've seen the video, yes.
Okay. And then I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibits 34 to 43.
I viewed these pictures prior to coming in here.
And are these exhibits a true and accurate depiction of the photos and the evidence, I'm sorry, the photos that were taken by Metro One, by your company and you in 2003?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this point, I've moved to admit State's Exhibits 37 or 34 through 43.
All right, and
Please note the objection referenced earlier.
yeah, so the court will take notice of the objection was previously raised, and we've discussed this previously. Those objections will be overruled. So the court will admit in evidence State's Exhibits 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40,
41.
41, 42, and 43.
And then also, Your Honor, I had 32 and 33. And 32 is currently in the computer because of technical issues. I'm afraid to remove it.
So you're moving for admission of
Admission,
those
yes,
as well?
Your Honor.
All right, so would it be the same objections as to Exhibits 32 and 33?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, so as previously mentioned, those are noted, overruled. So State's Exhibits 32 and 33 shall be admitted in evidence, and you are free to publish if you'd like.
Thank you, Your Honor. All right. Mr. Chair, I'm going to show you, maybe, what's been marked as State's Exhibit 34. And this is, what is this, sir?
It's a vial.
And this is a picture taken at the Ferguson household.
Yes.
State's Exhibit 34. This is 35. Another, what is that?
That's a vial also.
You might want to, let me see if this helps him.
That's 2 vials.
And can you see the name on that?
No. It's 4 bottles of liquid medication.
Is this a picture of the Ferguson household interior?
Yes, it's a table with vials, 2 vials, pictures you had, the medication and the liquid, and I think over in the corner is maybe a formula, baby formula possibly.
Talking about, right here.
I think down one, right, those boxes there.
Okay. Formula.
I think so. More medication and formula.
That's another picture of the medication.
Medication, I believe that's a scale in the center of the picture. That'd be the vial with the contents and the pill and the contents inside the vial. I believe that's the formula that we talked about before. Medications.
Okay, what I just showed you, I'm sorry, Ron, I forgot to say, it was 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 37, 36, 35, and 34, for the record.
Thank you.
This is states at a 33. What is this a picture of?
I think you might want to adjust it.
Can you,
Flip it.
there we go. This picture of Mr. Ferguson by the door.
And this was at the time you went in to seize these items from his house,
Yes,
at the direction of Mr. Rogers.
that's correct.
Now, these medications that I just showed you are all still in the bottles, correct?
At the time we,
I'm sorry, let me ask that question again. There's medication still in those bottles, correct?
yes,
They weren't empty bottles?
I really don't remember. I know the one with the, had the pills came out of the vial.
Okay,
Now, the liquid in the bottles, I really don't remember.
okay. Do you recall seizing any empty bottles?
No,
And you said that you seized items at the direction of Mr. Rogers. Were you directed to seize anything else by Mr. Rogers?
I know we took some medical papers, and I'm sure that that was at the direction of Mr. Rogers also.
And your search, or your entry into the house was on June 20th of 2003. Does that sound familiar?
Correct.
I'm going to show you, if it's okay with the court's approval, I'd like to publish the video this time, Your Honor.
All right, you may do so.
Thank you. Well, hopefully. Now, where are we right now, Mr. Sheriff? Do you know?
I have no idea. I know we're on location, and actually the video is being filmed by, I believe it was Mr. Bergdorf, who worked for me at my direction, and it'll be a scan of the whole house, various rooms. believe so, yes.
And Mr. Tamir, that video had on it a date stamp of June 20th of 2003, is that correct?
That's correct.
So that would have been 9 days after Christian Ferguson was reported missing that you entered the house?
That's the day we went to the house.
Okay. When you removed the items, did you document what you took from the house?
Yes?
And where are do those records still exist?
I don't have them. I would have turned them over to the law firm.
Okay. Did you ever notify any law enforcement at the time that you had entered the residence?
I don't think so, no.
Did you at any point turn over the items that you had seized from the residence to law enforcement?
Yes.
And you did so pursuant to subpoena?
I was served a subpoena, and also I had a conversation with Mr. Rogers that I had received a subpoena.
And it was at that point that you turned over the medications and the medical records seized from Dawan Ferguson's house. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And nothing further, Your Honor.
Thank you. Cross-examination.
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Witness may be released. Ms. Bailey Smith?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Be safe. All right, State, you may call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. The state calls the Harry Howell.
All right. Come on up, sir. Hello. Welcome. Stop right there, raise your right hand. You do solemnly swear that the information you're about to provide will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I will.
Thank you. Go ahead. Have a seat. And just give the spelling of your name to the reporter when you get settled in, please.
Sure thing, Your Honor. Thank you. Name is Harry Howell, Howell.
Sorry, while we do some housekeeping.
All right, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Howell, will you introduce yourself to the jury for me?
Yeah, my name is Harry Howell, and I was the primary investigator for this case.
Okay. And how are you currently employed, sir?
I'm currently employed at the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency in St. Louis.
And how long have you been with them?
7 years now.
And what is your current title?
I'm a personal security background investigator.
Okay. And prior to that, you were with St. Louis City Police Department?
Yes, I was.
How long were you with St. Louis City?
20 years and 1 day.
Now, were you involved in the Christian Ferguson case?
Yes, I was.
How so?
On the day of June 11, 2003, I was reporting for work. I was newly assigned to the North Patrol Division Detective Bureau. And I was directed by my lieutenant, Art Rule, in order to go with Detective Dyson, Jerome Dyson, to a house at 3720 Sylvan Place.
Okay. And when you were directed to go to that house, what information did you have at that point?
I knew at that point that that was in relation to a missing person investigation that we received that morning.
And with regards to missing person, was it a child?
Child, Christian Ferguson.
And how old was he at the time that you received the report?
If I'm not mistaken, he was 9 years old at the time.
Okay. Were you considered the lead detective on the case?
Yes,
Did you work closely with the FBI?
yes.
And who specifically did you work with at the FBI?
At the FBI, that was Agent Liza Ludovico.
And you said first thing you did was to go to the Ferguson household. Do you recall where that was located?
3720 Sylvan Place.
And when you met with the Fergusons, who was present at the time?
We were met by Monica Ferguson, DeShonda, her daughter, and Tia, the youngest daughter. And also in the house was Connor. That was Christian's brother.
Okay, and who did you know Monica to be?
Monica was Dwan's wife.
All right. And when you met with the family, did you notice anything unusual or different about Christian's bedroom?
Well, when we came in, the door was closed, and it appears the house was, just lived-in condition. It wasn't necessarily out of order. But when we asked to get a request to search the residence, there's a form that we get signed, and Monica agreed to that. When we did that, we looked into the bedroom where Christian was, and there was an odor of urine in the room.
Okay. And I'm guessing that in your 20 years and 1 day of service, you've been into some houses that have been less than well kept.
Yes, unfortunately, you can say that.
And would you state in your experience that this is one of the stronger smells of urine?
Yes.
At some point, did you learn about a woman by the name of Lakeisha Mays, who was a friend of the defendant and Monica?
Yes, that was during the discussion with Monica that morning.
Okay. And at that point, did you discover that she lived on Disco Drive?
I believe the discussion with Monica was she thought she lived.
Objection, hearsay.
I don't think he said anything. It's his understanding of what was said. So I'm going to overrule the objection.
Thank you, Your Honor.
No.
Go ahead.
My understanding that I didn't receive an address, but we knew that Monica had lived in North County.
Okay. And you all were interested in where where Lakeisha Mays lived, correct?
Correct.
And were you interested in where Lakeisha Mays lived because the SUV at this point, did you know the SUV had been found?
By that point, yes, we knew that the SUV was found in North County.
Okay.
So the question that we asked to Monica was, do you know anybody who resides in North County?
Okay. And at that point, you learned the name of Lakeisha Mays, is that
Correct.
correct? And did you later learn that she lived on Disco Drive?
We did.
How far is Disco Drive from Ron Bar?
Just a few moments or a few minutes by car.
Okay. Would you say they're close?
Yeah, very close.
Did you respond to where the expedition was recovered on Ron Bar?
Later that morning, yes.
Okay. And when you responded to the expedition, what did you notice about it, if anything?
One of the things that we noticed were the keys were still in the ignition, which we thought was rather odd.
Okay. And why is that odd in your experience in 20 years in the police force? Why are the keys in the ignition of a reported stolen car? Why is that odd?
Objection, speculation.
Overruled. You may answer.
In my experience, when somebody steals a car with the keys in the ignition, they don't get out of the car and leave the keys in the ignition.
Okay. Were you present for the search of the vehicle?
Yes,
Okay. And I'm talking about the red SUV.
that's correct.
Did you understand this red, or was this red SUV identified as the vehicle that was reported stolen by Mr. Ferguson
Yes,
that same day, correct?
yes.
These are all out of order, I'm sorry. This, Your Honor, if I may approach and show the state's exhibits.
You may.
Is it 61? Okay. State's exhibits 45 and 46. Do you recognize those pictures?
Yes, I do.
And what is picture 45?
Picture 45 is some of the items that were recovered from inside the vehicle,
Okay.
being electronics, cell phones, and things of that nature.
And what about 46?
46 is the contents of the vehicle, and I can tell by this photo, this was taken at our garage, our fleet services division that was located on Laclede Avenue at the time.
Okay. And are those a true and accurate copy of the items as they appeared on June 11th of 2003?
Yes.
Your Honor, I move to admit State's Exhibits 45 and 46 into evidence and ask to be published to the jury.
Any objection?
No objection.
Seeing no objection, States Exhibit 45 and 46 shall be admitted in evidence, and you may publish.
Thank you, Your Honor. So this is State's Exhibit 45. Mr. Howell, and what are these items?
Again, those are the various electronic items that we seized from inside the vehicle.
And to be clear, it's from the vehicle that was reported stolen by Mr.
That's right. That was the Ford Excursion that was found on Ron Bar.
Okay. So we can mark this State's Exhibit 46. Are these items found in this vehicle?
Yes, that's the contents of the back of the vehicle. Correct.
And I believe you've already looked at this, but I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 44A. Do you recognize this?
Yes, that's an aerial photograph of the area.
And is this, you previously viewed this, is this a true and accurate rendition of the streets and the locations as they occurred back on June 11th of 2003?
Yes.
Your Honor, I move to admit State's Exhibit number 44A into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection.
Seeing no objection, States Exhibit 44A shall be admitted in evidence, and you may publish to the jury.
Mr. Howell, I don't know if you can, I don't know how best to do this, but if you would show me where these locations we've been talking about are located on this map. I don't want to.
It's okay to get up
Sir,
there?
you can get up. Just make sure you speak loudly for us, please.
Will do. location right here is 6104 Page Avenue. That was the location of the payphone where when the St. Louis Police Department 911 received a call of the vehicle being stolen and a child that was inside the vehicle. Mr. Ferguson had made the call. This is the location of the house on Silver Place where Detective Dyson and I went to the home to interview Monica Ferguson and family members earlier that morning, or later that morning, I should say. And this is a location of 922 Disco. That's the residence of Miss Lakeisha Mays. And this is the location at 326 Lombard. That's where the Ford Excursion was located.
And did you already say where Lakeisha May's car was found?
Oh, yes. Later that day, we determined that Lakeisha May's car was found at 6104 Page, just right around the corner. I believe that Side Street is 40 miles from that state.
Okay. Thank you. Now did you become the lead investigator in this case?
Yes.
And there was a lot of searches, correct?
Many.
Did you conduct any yourself?
Yes.
Based on what?
Throughout the course of the investigation, we set up a hotline to take calls in for any leads that we needed to examine. So that was part of that. We kept a log of those various searches that we conducted during that time.
Okay. You never did locate Christian Ferguson, is that
No.
correct? Did you at some point during your investigation learn that items have been seized from the Ferguson household?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall what month that was?
I believe that was in July of the following month after the disappearance.
And how did you learn that somebody had gone into the house and seized items?
I was informed by my lieutenant, it's our rule, that Metro One investigations had likely entered into the home because there were reports from neighbors that some people were there in like 3 different vehicles, and they were in the home, and in the back of the vehicle was recording equipment like a video camera, things of that nature.
Okay. And let me ask you this, Mr. Howell. At the time when this was first occurring, this was a developing situation, would you say?
Absolutely, yes.
And June 11th, did you know about the extent of Christian's medications and hospitalizations and the hospital records or anything?
I didn't know details of all the hospital records or details of the medications other than the information that Monica Ferguson shared with us that morning. And during that day, I recorded the type of medications that were on the shelf and the different types of devices that were used for giving the medications to Christian. That was in the home.
Okay. After you learned that Metro One had seized and taken medications and hospital records or taken things out of the house, what was your next course? What was your next step?
Well, we determined that likely there was other evidence that could have been in the home that we weren't aware of. And that could have been actual physical evidence. And we desired to get a search warrant for the home in order to review that.
Okay. And so you got a search warrant for the home, and you also got one from Metro One Investigations, is that
That's
correct?
right. Yes.
And did you, in fact, seize items from Metro One?
Yes.
Okay. And in fact, you did get a search warrant to enter the Ferguson house at a later date, is that correct?
Yes.
And that was in August of 2003,
Correct.
2 months after Christian's disappearance,
Correct.
and 1 month after Metro One had already been in there and seized items.
Yeah, I don't recall the exact date when Metro One was there, but I believe it was in mid-July.
Okay. And the items that you seized from Metro One, were they were they medicine bottles?
Yeah, some of them were medicine bottles. I knew they took various photographs also and a videotape of what they were doing inside there.
And what is part of the reason that you and Liza started working, Agent Ludovico started working together?
Well, Agent Ludovico has a background in nursing, and one of the issues with this particular case was Christian had a very rare genetic disorder that required special feedings and special treatment. And this was very true after his coma 2 years prior to his disappearance. It required care almost continuously, and that included having state-funded nurses in the home in order to assist the family with caring for Christian. So,
Objection narrative.
All right, I'll sustain the objection. Go ahead and ask your next question.
Thank you, Your Honor. And so because of his complicated medical condition, having somebody with Agent Ludovico's nursing and healthcare background was helpful in understanding the case. Would that be correct?
yes,
Would she perhaps understand what evidence was needed better than you would because of her medical background?
because of medical background, because a lot of medical terms were on a lot of those documents.
Okay. Your Honor, if I may approach with State
You may.
Exhibits 47 through 67.
This is all what we got from Metro One.
Exhibits 47 through 67.
Okay,
Do you recognize those photographs?
yes.
And what are those photographs of?
These are all medications that were prescribed to Christian.
And were those photographs, were those taken by you?
No,
Okay. And were those seized from Metro One?
yes.
Your Honor, at this point, I'd move to admit State Exhibits 47 through 67 of evidence.
All right, any objection?
Judge, yes, I'll object to those pictures due to my previous pretrial motion.
All right, yes, and your objection's noted, shall be overruled, consistent with the court's prior ruling. So State's Exhibits 47 through 67 shall be admitted in evidence, and you're free to publish some of those.
Thank you, Judge. Now, Mr. Howell, what did you do with these after you seized these? You seized the actual bottles, is that correct? These are just photographs?
Yes.
And what did you do with medication?
All the medications that we received from Metro One, we took to our laboratory division.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 67. So what is that a copy of?
Now, that's one of the medications, yeah, thank you for, again, another one of the medications that my understanding was Christian needed for his daily feeding and intake.
State's Exhibit 66. And this one actually has Christian's name on it. Is it?
Correct.
State's Exhibit 65.
Yes, arginine crystal, correct.
State's Exhibit 64.
Yeah, so that's just the same bottle, but it's turned slightly in order to record all the information that the other photograph couldn't capture. Yes, sodium benzoate.
State's Exhibit 62.
And that's another bottle of the same medication, sodium benzoate.
And to be clear, you thought these or these medications, the reason you wanted them was because you thought they were relevant to this case, correct?
Yes,
Because of Christian's disease.
correct.
So State Exhibit 61 is another photo of medication. Is that correct?
Yes.
Cardiac order. State's Exhibit 60.
Yep, another bottle of Carnitor.
State's Exhibit 59.
Citrocasol, yes. I believe that's another bottle of it, if I'm not mistaken. I have to compare that to the last one. And this is vitamin B6 that Christian was also prescribed.
State's Exhibit 57. State's Exhibit 56.
And again, the same bottle, probably just turned so you can get the other image of the label.
State's Exhibit 55. This is a different medication, correct?
Correct, that's a different medication.
In fact,
That may be L-arginine crystal. Perhaps another photograph will show the other side of the label.
that was State's Exhibit 54. It's the State's Exhibit 53. Sorry, going backwards. Other side of the label.
Yes.
State's Exhibit 52.
Again, arginine crystal.
And to me, did it look like to you, or do you recall whether there was medication in these bottles still?
Objection, speculation.
That'll be sustained.
State's Exhibit 51.
Yep, again, medication for Christian, and again, arginine crystal. These are likely different bottles of medication because we had more than one.
Multiple bottles, correct?
Yes.
Do you recall seeing medications in some of these bottles?
Objection, speculation, Judge. We don't have the bottles here.
Has the witness held these bottles, seen these bottles?
You collected these in season 6 and season
The
4.
bottles were collected and they were transferred to the laboratory.
And this witness did that?
By you, correct?
Yes.
Well, you can ask him that day if they were, not based on the photo.
Yes, that day that you collected them, do you have an independent recollection of there being medication left in these bottles?
There was some medication, usually in each of the bottles, but it didn't appear to be full.
That was State's Exhibit 50. State's Exhibit 49. Another medication bottle,
Yes.
48.
Yep.
Another medication bottle.
Uponol, yes, that's another medication for Christian.
And then last is 47. Let's give a copy of that one. The resin bottle.
Yes.
Now, you said you were there, present for the search of the vehicle.
I was.
Ferguson's. I'm going to show you some marked as State's Exhibit 68. Actually, I'm sorry, I'm going to take that back. I'm going to show you some marked as State's Exhibit 69. If I may approach, Your Honor.
You may.
Do you recognize this, Mr. Monroe?
Yeah, my handwriting is a fact, a matter of fact.
Okay. And what does that envelope contain?
I marked this as the contents of one G-tube.
Do you recognize your handwriting, correct?
Yes,
Did you package and seize and seal that envelope?
I did.
Okay, and do you know when you did that?
The date here, it says August 8th, 2007. 12:40 is when I signed the evidence, but or the evidence label, so it was probably open in between then. The date that this was seized,
Did you seize it during the search of the house pursuant to search warrant?
it was during the search of the house, but we should have a different date on here. And that was because the FBI laboratory, when they searched the house, they recovered the evidence, and we received that from the FBI at a later time.
Okay. But do you remember seeing this and seizing this from the house?
Yes.
Okay. And what is this item?
This is the G-tube, or the gastrointestinal tube that would be used for feeding Christian through a stoma that he had surgically implanted.
And is this a true and accurate, is this the item that, the actual G-tube that you seized that day? August 8th of 2003?
I'd have to take a look at it. That does appear to be it, yes.
And you found that in the Ferguson house?
Mm-hmm.
Your Honor, I move to admit State's Exhibit 68 into evidence.
Any objection?
Yes, objection due to pretrial motions.
All right, 6-9, stand on your previous objection. All right, so that'll be overruled but noted. So State's Exhibit 69 shall be admitted in evidence. You may publish to the jury if you'd like.
Thank you, Judge. And just so everybody's clear, you did seize this, but then it was taken to the FBI lab, is that correct?
Yeah, technically, the FBI recovered that as evidence, and then I later retrieved it. But I did make a notation of all the evidence that the FBI retrieved, including the G-tube.
With regards to the car, I'm going to show you some marked as State's Exhibit 68. If I may approach, Your Honor.
You may.
Do you recognize this?
Yes.
Was that seized from Mr. Ferguson's car
This was seized from inside the Ford Excursion.
on June 11th of 2003?
Yes, there was a bag with a lot of miscellaneous receipts and personal papers, and this was in there with it.
And is that the way it appeared that day?
Yes.
Your Honor, I move to admit State's Exhibit 68 into evidence.
Any objection?
Yes, Judge, I would object due to the relevance.
May I see the exhibit, please?
Yes, Your Honor.
What is the relevance of this exhibit?
Do we want a sidebar?
Yeah, let's do. Come on up. Ladies and gentlemen, feel free to take a stretch break at this time.
I have nothing further, Your Honor.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Cross-examination?
Thank you, Judge. Hello.
Hello, Ms. Steele.
How are you?
Doing well, thank you.
Oh, Judge, I apologize. May we approach one more time on something?
Okay. You ready? All right, so you may proceed.
Thank you. Okay. It's weird to call you Mr. Howe instead of
Yes,
officer.
that's
sorry.
correct. Thank you.
So one of the first things that you did, yourself and Detective Dyson went to the house on Sylvan the morning of June 11th, right?
That's correct.
And as you stated, you talked to Monica, Connor, and DeShonda.
And I believe Tia was also in the home too, but Tia couldn't offer any information for us.
Okay. And as you had testified, the house looked normal, lived-in condition?
Yes,
And as you stated, it seemed to be well kept, but you did notice the odor of urine in the boys' room?
later, yes, when we opened up the door to the bedroom where Connor and Christian slept.
Okay. And during that cursory search of the home, you didn't find anything suspicious?
No, nothing that we would find that would be unordinary, like, like a gruesome scene of a murder or such. We didn't find anything like that, no.
And when you went to the home that morning, Monica, Connor, and DeShonda were fully cooperative?
Yes,
Okay. No strange demeanors detected?
no.
Now, the search that occurred in August of 2003, I think specifically might have been August 13th of 2003?
It could have been,
Okay. Items were seized from the home, is that correct?
yes.
And it was your understanding in the investigation, Dawan and Monica had moved out by the time you did the search?
We determined that because we spoke to neighbors who believed that nobody was residing at the home.
Okay. So everything that was left behind were things the family wouldn't have taken with them if they had left the home.
That is sustained.
And when you were there, when the FBI actually executed the search warrant, you didn't see anything relevant to your investigation yourself, correct?
Objection calls for speculation on the part of the witness.
That's about his investigation.
Well, I'm going to sustain the
Yeah.
objection, but why don't you re-ask the question?
Oh, that's fine.
Thank you.
When the FBI went into the house to do the search, you were present, correct?
I was present at the home, yes, but not with the FBI.
Not at the FBI, okay. Did you go inside of the home?
When the FBI evidence technicians completed their investigation inside, yes, I did go in.
Okay. And then you went in yourself to look around, is that correct?
Not just to look around, but also to determine what evidence they were collecting and where from.
Okay. And from what you observed that was left, you did not see anything relevant to your investigation?
No, some of those items were relevant to the investigation, so that would be the medications specifically, and also things such as soiled bedding.
Now, you claim that the items seized were medications and food and medical supplies?
Yes,
And those items are now actually missing, correct?
those items were taken to the lab at a later time, and I don't understand how the lab conducts their processes for destruction of evidence.
Okay.
But my understanding is eventually those items were destroyed at some point, yes.
And as you had testified, Metro One was the company hired by Dawan's attorney, correct?
Yes,
Okay. And they turned over the medication and video, bottles, documents, et cetera, to you, right?
those items that they seized initially, yes.
And the G-tube, you actually got that from Metro One, correct?
No, the G-tube was actually seized during the FBI investigation.
Let's see here. Do you remember back in May 4th of this year, you came and sat for a deposition with me?
Yes,
Okay. And that was at the prosecutor's office?
yes.
Correct. It was myself. I think Mr. Schlesinger was there.
Mhm.
Okay. And you were sworn under oath, tell the truth
Yes.
like you are today. Okay. John, it's page 66. Judge, may I approach the witness?
You may. You can go ahead.
I'm going to show you page 66, and it starts at,
Ms. Gill, if you just speak up for us.
oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to show you page 66, and it starts at line 23. And yeah, it starts at line 23. And I asked, and where did you get this G-tube from? And he said this was a G-tube that was in the Metro One investigation that was turned over to us, part of some of the medications and whatnot.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes, that's what I said at that time, but since that time, I've been able to review an old copy of my report that I was able to find, and I believe in that report, it indicates that the G-tube was actually found during the FBI investigation. That's why.
Okay.
Thank you for correcting me,
No, that's okay.
and
Corrected
I just
me.
want to make sure that the record is correct.
No, I appreciate it. So that was, you're saying the G-tube was recovered at the search in August
Yes,
of 2003. And again, this is after, through your investigation, you believe Dawan and Monica had moved out.
correct.
Okay. Now, a month into the disappearance of Christian, the FBI was brought in, correct?
That's right.
Okay. Because this was a complex case?
It was a very complex case because there were a lot of different variables that we did not know on the first day.
And the homicide division did not take this case?
That's right.
And that didn't surprise you because there was no proof of a homicide or a body?
There was no homicide and no body to be proven at that point, correct?
And you investigated this case for 5 to 6 months in 2003?
Yes.
And then it became, I guess, what they'll call a cold case?
Technically, yes.
Okay. And then it was reopened, it was in 2005, to follow up on leads that had come in?
That's right.
And after that, it became cold again?
Yes.
Okay. And again, the reason it was cold is because it was still largely circumstantial, no body, no confession.
Objection calls for speculation. Legal conclusion on the part of the witness.
Yeah, that will be sustained.
And at that time, there was no confession that you were aware of, correct?
That's right. No confession.
Okay. Now, I believe you had testified that the police located Lakeisha May's vehicle near the payphone.
Correct.
And prints were taken from that vehicle?
The evidence technician unit arrived and they processed that vehicle. I was not there for that.
Okay. And did you speak with the evidence technician in regards to the results from the lifts or anything?
I did not.
Okay. Going a little bit into the investigation, specifically the payphone, you tried to investigate whether or not Dawan placed a call to the hospital from the payphone before calling 911, correct?
That's right.
And you were not able to obtain those records from the payphone to see if a call had been placed?
That's right. And in review, the payphone will only record long-distance calls.
Correct.
But not local calls.
And as far as the hospital, you also did not obtain phone call records from the hospital to indicate if a call came in?
We did check with the hospital for their incoming calls.
Well, I'm
and
asking about, did you obtain records?
there were no records to be obtained.
Okay. Now, I believe you testified on direct about, or maybe not on direct, you participated in some searches for Christian, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And some of those searches were areas associated with pyramid construction?
We did get leads that possible pyramid construction work sites might be involved, but none of those had any evidence for us that we could outright examine. We didn't obtain any search warrants for any pyramid properties.
And you did go to some of those areas, but you didn't find anything to believe Christian was in the location?
That's correct.
Okay. And as you stated, you got some leads. One of those leads was from Theda and her husband, Victor?
I can't recall where all the leads came from. That's a good possibility that it might have originated with Theda or Victor.
Do you remember, again, at the deposition that we had back in May of this year? The deposition that you sat
Yes.
for? Okay. And I had asked you about the leads in regards to the searching at the construction site.
Yes.
And Judge, may I approach the witness?
You may.
It's page 67. I'm going to show you what's marked as page 67. And go here starting at line 19. So did you, when you were searching for Christian, did you search any areas?
Your Honor, objection at this point. May we approach?
You may. All right. So there was an objection raised. I think ultimately the objection's overruled, but with an understanding. So if you would just continue, please. I had said sustained at the side, and I think I was mistaken.
Okay.
It's my first mistake I made this week. Anyway, so go ahead.
Actually, so, Mr. Howell, if I gave you, it showed you a copy of the transcript, would that help refresh your recollection?
Sure.
Okay. So I'm going to have you read to yourself lines 19 down on this page, and then 1 through 3, and then let me know when you're done.
And just for the record, it's pages 67 at the bottom on to 68. Is that
Yes, sir.
correct? Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Is your recollection refreshed?
Yes.
So, again, those leads that you had received, one of them seemed to be from Theta and Victor Thomas, correct?
Yes.
Now, in your investigation that started in 2003, also in 2005, you prepared a police report, is that correct?
That's right.
And you prepared the police report in conjunction with the other officers that were tasked to do other parts of the investigation, is that
Yes.
correct? Okay. And part of the investigation was speaking with a individual by the name of Mark Ellis.
You have to, excuse me, can you tell me who that may be?
I apologize. So part of the investigation was speaking with neighbors on Ron Bar where the vehicle in question was found, correct?
Yes, I believe that is probably one of the juvenile division detectives that spoke with Mr. Ellis.
Okay.
Or other people that might have been located on Ron Bar.
And those officers that were tasked to speak with those neighbors, they then gave you that information and you put that in your police report, is that correct?
That's right.
Okay. And when Mark Ellis was interviewed by law enforcement officials, would reviewing your report help refresh the recollection on this?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Your Honor, I'm going to object at this point. This is hearsay, and it's calling for him to testify as to another officer's statements that he got from a witness.
Turn on your microphone, would you please? I can't hear you. Say that again.
I'm going to object it's hearsay. It's my long.
All right, the short version.
Yes.
Why don't you come up to the side, please? All right, so the objection was sustained, so you may ask your next question.
Judge, I have no other questions right now.
Okay.
But I do have him subpoenaed for potential impeachment.
Okay, all right. So no further questions at this time. Any further, any redirect, I should say?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. So Mr. Allen, you may step down at this time, and Ms. Steele was saying you're under subpoena in her case. So
That's right.
you'll visit with her about that. Those are right.
Very good. Thank you, Your
Have a
Honor.
good afternoon. Be safe. Thank you. All right, you may call your next witness.
May we approach, Your Honor?
Sure. We don't get to see enough of each other up here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, some issues with scheduling and some things that the attorneys and I have to work on. The net result is you get to go home early again tonight. Huh? Pretty good, right?
Yeah.